and welcome back to the Dreamcast. I am your host, Denise Walsh. I combine science, scripture, and stories that will inspire you to dive deep, break through your own personal glass ceiling, and design a life of your dreams.
I believe that we can thrive in all areas of life at the same time. But where do we begin? Personally, financially, spiritually, relationally? And often because we don't know where to focus, we do nothing. At least that's the space I lived in for several years. I know what it feels like to constantly be spinning my wheels. And that's exactly why I created the Dream Life Daily Journal. After working through the Dream Life Action Planner, we need to do something every day so we actually take steps in the direction we desire. Throughout the years, I've developed success habits that have helped me to create a Dream 10 life in all areas by focusing on one area at a time. And I teach you exactly what to do each and every day in the Dream Life Daily Journal. You'll find a gratitude game every day to start the morning off right, a space for prayer, meditation, journaling, a space to write down your clear and intentional dream life goal with affirmations and visualizations connected to that goal. You'll then have a spot to write down your dream life action to-do list so you can be intentionally taking action towards your goal every single day. I know that by completing the Dream Life Daily Journal every day for at least 30 days, you can create momentum. And when you do that, my friends, you can live your dream life too. Check out the dreamlifetoolkit.com or Amazon to get your copy of the Dream Life Daily Journal today. Big welcome back to the Dreamcast. In our next interview, our guest has been an entrepreneur since basically 18 years old. He is the director of sales for bestdayofmylife.com. He's a passionate traveler and thrill seeker. He's been buying real estate in San Diego, California since the Great Recession that we all remember of 2008 and 2009. And also owns a company called Sharp Retention that will generate around $3 million in revenue this year. Oh my gosh. I'm excited to dive in and hear his story. He's the director of sales for the Best Day of My Life, LLC. Big welcome to Adam Sobieski to the Dreamcast.
Thanks, Denise. Great introduction there. I appreciate it.
I practiced your last name. Hopefully I didn't butcher it.
You nailed it. You nailed it.
All right. So I was an employee mindset going into my entrepreneur venture, which meant I had a lot to learn, but you what came out of high school with this entrepreneur mindset. Tell me a little bit about what you did first, right out of the gate.
I mean, the biggest thing is commission only sales. That's really what I got into. And to me, that's the same thing. When you have to basically, produce to get paid, being commission only sales is the same thing as being an entrepreneur. You make your own schedule, you eat what you produce. And, which again, talking about employee mindset, it's no different, because if you don't perform, they're going to get rid of you, right? I mean, my wife is an employee. That's what works for her and her identity. And she's self-aware enough to know that being an entrepreneur is not for everybody. It can be, but what I've learned is that either way, because I've seen her have about 4 jobs in the last 5 years, and I've had the same job for 16 years in terms of Sharp Retention. And so you look at job security, and it's just a myth. So there is no job security, and you can be an employee. That's fine. That's definitely cut out for some people. And as entrepreneurs, we love people that want to be employees, and that's okay. But once you kind of get into getting paid off of your own efforts and your own ambition and what you produce, you kind of don't ever want to go back from that. You can never imagine being paid for your time. I only want to be paid on what I produce. And when you start that at a young age, when I started at 18, it kind of just becomes your brain is still developing, right? So you're not really done developing your brain and your identity till the age of about 25 to 27, most statistics show, barring a big tragedy or something like that. So, when you start that at a young age, it kind of just becomes part of your identity. And once you start to get to your, mid 20s, not saying you can't start at any time, but when you start young, if you have kids, if you're young right now, if you start young, you will kind of go into that identity and it just kind of becomes who you are. You can't really picture it any other way. So yeah, commission only sales. And that's how I started at 18.
Oh, it's so interesting. Produce and to get paid rather than just showing up to get paid. And it is a different mindset, and it really does impact your identity. At least I know when I made the shift for myself, I realized like, oh, I am an entrepreneur. I now need to learn what an entrepreneur does. I now need to learn all aspects of the business rather than just this one skill set that I had become so good at. So it's a little bit of an identity shift, but once you make it, you're right. It kind of comes your lifeblood. Like, I'm so excited to create and produce because I know that it keeps me fueled and it's super fun. So you went from commission only sales. What was your first like startup business that you did?
I mean, so basically that's what it was, sharp retention. We do branded promotional gifts, promotional items, things like that, mostly for realtors and loan officers, closing gifts, things like that. And we have about 6,000 clients now. I've been doing it for 16 years, and our business is over 82% reorder of our revenue of the few $1 million we'll do. So we have a huge base of clients. We have an office in Florida, a bunch of computers, a bunch of staff. We got a couple virtual admin people in the Philippines, and that business has been rocking and rolling. That's kind of like my baby. I started buying real estate when I was 24 in San Diego in 2009 during the Great Recession. Picked up some houses, did very well with that, and that was essentially where if you're going to be an entrepreneur and get into making money, you're typically not going to go the route of 401k, Roth IRA. I'm not saying there's anything bad with those things. My wife has those things. It's fine. But once you start being in control of your destiny in terms of business, you're also going to want to be in control of your destiny in terms of investing. And you're not just going to shove all your money away to a financial planner and go into S&P index. And you might do that for a while or whatever, but eventually you're going to be like, why am I listening to this employee financial planner who is possibly not higher net worth than me, right? Who am I getting my advice from? And eventually you kind of say, okay, I'm making all this money as an entrepreneur. I'm going to start finding my place to invest it to get whatever desired return you have, 20% cash on cash or whatever you're looking for, because you want to get paid on what you produce. And so as an entrepreneur, you're getting paid on what you produce. So as an investor, it's very hard to just be passive and just take your few percent, right? You want to be active. You want to get that higher return with maybe the higher risk. But as an entrepreneur, you're used to placing your own bet. And I'd rather lose on my bet than lose on somebody else's bet that told me to do something.
Interesting. When you step into business ownership, you're like, all right, I take 100% responsibility. And then that transfers into all areas of life. So you're taking your finances and you're like, all right, I'm taking 100% responsibility here, which means there's a learning curve and there's risks and there's steps, but that's where you see a lot of reward. And so is that how sharp retention was?
Yeah, that's how it was invented. I'm 50% owner of the company. My other business partner lives in Florida, where it's much more inexpensive to run an operation in Florida than it is San Diego, and no state income tax there and everything else. I mean, and so that business has been very well. That's definitely like probably I would say the cash cow. Best day of my life is still very much in its infancy stages. And but yeah, real estate is always something that I do. You never want to move the ball forward in terms of income or achievements in your business or career or whatnot without moving the needle forward in terms of net worth and passive cash flow. A lot of people get stuck in that, and that becomes an employee mindset, right? Getting the extra 6 PTO days. It's so funny because I listen to kind of certain conversations that my wife has with her friends, and they're not bad, they're just different. And then I listen to the conversations that I have because I've kind of built a network of all entrepreneurs, and I'm still learning. Like, they're excited about 4 extra PTO days or the $3,000 bump in pay or this and that. And it's like, we don't talk about that. We talk about how to build something big, how to really get the business to be worth X amount. At EBITDA, we talk about, when we're going to be, fully free. And we really talk about, not the extra 5 or 10 or 20,000 we can make a year, because that's still kind of imprisonment in our minds. We talk about when we can get free. We talk about pushing the needle forward in our business and ultimately in our net worth. And we never want to be just active without achieving, right? It'd be like in a football game. It'd be like the first down's 10 yards away and you do a play that is only going to get you 3 yards. Well, you were just active without actually achieving anything. So as an entrepreneur, you never want to get caught up in just inside your business and pushing sales forward and pushing to the next level without also pushing through you to the next higher level in terms of wealth and net worth and freedom and those things. So I always make very mindful effort to understand that my game is to push forward my wealth and my assets and things like that, which is why I've always been involved and loved real estate.
Yeah. And I love that your businesses have flowed out of each other. So you became an expert in real estate. You experienced success with that. And then it sounds like you probably all right, well, what's next? What do real estate people need? What would up-level them? How can I, you already have clout in a sense in this area. So how can you add value here?
Right.
And sharp retention is a stem from that. And then best day of my life. Tell me a little bit about that business.
Yeah, I mean, that was a very organic thing. So I'll give you kind of the short story here. My friends and I, we started saying, you kind of become the people you surround yourself with. So, somebody starts saying something fun or funny or sarcastically, and then everybody starts saying it. So one of my buddies started saying, you'd ask him how he's doing, he'd be like, best day of my life. And it was kind of tongue in cheek, like it was kind of positive, it was kind of funny, whatever. We all started kind of saying it like, yeah, best day of my life. And what we started noticing is like, it was kind of cool because people would kind of like, it would interrupt the autopilot, like people would actually like listen. You didn't just say, good, how you doing? It was like, oh, interesting. Like, what do you mean? Like, what is that all about? Or it would just kind of interrupt the autopilot, and we would get an actual like interaction with that person that we were engaging with because we said something that wasn't the norm. And so we were doing that. We thought it was funny. I had an ex-girlfriend at the time make myself and my buddies shirts that say best day of my life on them. And so what we found is we were wearing these shirts just for fun, like just whatever we thought was kind of funny. And anytime we wore the shirt somewhere, it would spark a conversation. People would be like, best day of your life, like even at the coffee shop, like I remember the guy was serving me coffee. This just happened a couple months ago. And he's like, thank you for making my coffee shop a part of your best day of my life journey, man. That's amazing. What's in store for today? And it was just, there's always conversation. We've worn them at Vegas. I'm in Vegas or on a hike. People are like, what is that? What? That's cool. Like it just sparked a conversation. And so we thought that was interesting. I have no interest in being in the t-shirt business or anything like that. But the theme that started to happen is that everybody was like, where can I get that? Where can I buy one of those? Where can I get that? Where can I? And after you hear that hundreds of times, you're like, I don't want to start another business, but I have to because everybody wants to buy this stuff. I can't ignore the consumers, right? Because I'm not big on follow your passion. I'm big on listen to the market. I think entrepreneurs get very romantic, and that's how they get killed. They'll put $50,000, $100,000 into an idea, and they don't actually listen to the market. They're just listening to their own vision, and that's a huge mistake. So we listened to the market. There was huge demand. Long story short, we did a Kickstarter campaign. We sold $10,000 worth of shirts in 4 days. We're like, whoa, like, okay, we definitely have something people want. Then we went through the process of, and this is crazy because this is only in 2014. You're thinking like bestdayofmylife.com. No way that's available, right? If they're just sitting on it on GoDaddy or whatever. Sure enough, bestdayofmylife.com available. We buy that site. Facebook, you're thinking for sure, this is a few years ago, somebody has to have Best Day of My Life on Facebook and Instagram. Nope. So we pick up those. Then we go through the 18-month process of getting an attorney involved and getting the trademark. And we're thinking the whole time, like there's the most bizarre things trademark you can ever imagine. There's no way that this trademark is open. There's no way, right? Sure enough, it's open and we got the trademark. And so, we were able to protect our intellectual property right off the bat and get all these sites set up. And then essentially what happened is we had 5 different owners involved and there was too many cooks in the kitchen. So essentially what happened is we had orders come in, we had things, but we had a bunch of owners that it's always first who and then what. So the what, best day of my life, great idea. Product was selling, there was need, but the who didn't work. There was too many owners involved. I was one of the original owners. So the company just kind of went awry. We stopped fulfilling orders. It just kind of fizzled out. Everybody got busy. We had a musician, a teacher. I'm an entrepreneur. Nobody was able to, 5 owners is a lot. And so one of my buddies, one of my original mentors who helped me start Sharp Retention, he was always bothering me like, hey man, I want to buy Best Day of My Life. I want to buy it. He knew that he could model Life is Good, which is a $100 million a year company. If you ever heard of Life is Good, it's kind of like baby boomers and above. They have a Life is Good trademark and they're in 4,500 retail stores and they crush it. And so he's had the model and he's got a 53 employee company called Branding Tools and he does extremely well. And so anyways, long story short, this year he bought the company. brought me in as director of sales. And we've done a couple clothing shows. We're doing podcasts, and we just kind of exploded. We sell shirts every day. It's just been an amazing thing because his name is Tony. He's the majority owner. He's just the right guy. He's got a big warehouse, 53 employees. He had scale in what he already had set up with his other business to kind of plug in. He already had a forklift and places for inventory. And, being in an inventory business, anybody that's been in that business, it is a challenge. You got a lot of money going in, a lot of money coming in, going out. You run out of this SKU. It becomes a very intense thing. And you need enough employees and enough space to be able to handle an operation like that. So Tony was the right who, and now the what best day of my life is retaking back off. So it's been a cool journey the last, 6 months since we relaunched.
Ooh, that's really interesting because the idea you knew worked because the consumers were asking for it, but the who wasn't right. And so
wasn't right. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the idea. It doesn't matter the product. You can sell anything. You can sell real estate loans, insurance. You can do network marketing. There's so many great opportunities of what you can do. But if you are not the right who, if you are not working on yourself, if you are not evolving and getting better as a salesperson or business leader or whatnot, you will never get there, no matter how good the product is. It is always who first and then what. And we learned that the hard way.
Entrepreneur life, right?
Yeah, for sure. You gotta have
you've got t-shirts. What other products are in the making?
We got a baby onesie, which has been selling really well because by default, your little baby, best day of your life by default. So those have been selling good. We have hats that say best day of my life. I should probably be wearing one, but I'm not. They're selling really well. We have hoodies. Our hoodies probably sell the best. I don't know why. They're super comfortable. People like them. And hoodies, baby onesies, hats. We're going to be getting into the pet apparel business here. We do have a dog onesie because people love dressing up their dogs. And if any entity and really has the best day of my life philosophy down, it's a dog. It's always the best day of their life. It's the best moment, right? Like they are so present. I mean, it is. And that's the thing. The best day of my life saying is very open to interpretation. Best day of my life can be something super positive, right? And there's a lot of positive people that like it. Or it can be super ironic and funny. Somebody who's not that maybe, kind of have some fun wearing it. Even me, like today hasn't been going good so far. Wake up, lots of challenges, entrepreneur happens, lost 2 employees yesterday, blah, blah, blah. I put this shirt on today, getting ready for this podcast. And I'm like, what it did for me is I'm like, where can I find the good? Frankly, I don't want to do this podcast right now. I got so much going on. I kind of have a lot of fires right now to put out, frankly. And, and so as I'm putting this shirt on before jumping on here with you, I'm like, it is now my choice to find the good. So how can I make this a best day of my life moment here? What can I do to kind of get into that positive mindset? And so, we just, that's the thing. It's either positive or it's funny or it's fun. And it could be anything from so I just got married a month ago.
Congratulations.
My wife was wearing the white tank top that says best day of my life in black lettering. It's a great, weddings, it is the best day of your life. So this is a huge upsell at bridal boutiques and things like that because it's event based, right? So some people are positive. Some people are just fun and like to wear it. But some people, it's their wedding, birth, their child, they're going skydiving, they're going to climb Kilimanjaro or whatever. So it can be event-based where people like to buy the shirts or they just like to wear them for fun. Ooh. Those are kind of the 2 markets that we have.
Yeah, well, you've got, it really spreads a message. Like today's the best day of my life. Even if it physically isn't, I'm deciding it is.
Yeah, totally. I'm just going to make that choice.
And then because, when people are wearing it, other people are asking them about it just like they did you. It's kind of that triple down effect.
Totally.
Now, I know that you mentioned, I've seen on your website and things that charity and philanthropy are also a big part of the best day of my life brand. Tell me a little bit about that.
We just found it's hard to have the best day of your life if you're not helping somebody else have the best day of their life, right? Because when you're helping others, it's a magnification. It's a magnifier of what you're experiencing. Nobody to be truly happy and enriched and joyful, in my opinion. You can't just be by yourself. Experiences are best when shared. That's why people get married and have families and have communities and friends and things like that, because life is better when you're sharing it with others and ultimately when you're helping others. And so you don't just want to be having the best day of your life, you want to help somebody else. So we donate 10% of our proceeds, go to a charity called the Front Row Foundation that's run by John Broman. We've known him for many years, over a decade. And basically what they do is they help critically ill people have the best day of their life in what really could be their last days. So we put them in the front row, their favorite concert, sporting event, things like that. They were able to help about 60 people that were, terminally or critically ill last year. It's very similar to Make-A-Wish. And, they're in the front row. They got the best day of their life shirt on. And so it's just a really good cause, and purchasing with a purpose is been really important. And we've just found that, it just feels good to be helping people out. And that's really where we want that, extra money to go and that focus to go, is to a good cause and to really helping people that are really in need of having a best day of their life situation. So it's been and that's the thing that we love about this business. It's such a feel-good business. To be honest with you, like real estate, it's not a feel-good business. It's a numbers game. It's a hustle game. You got to prospect a lot of properties before you buy something. You're giving people a place to live, but it doesn't have that warm and fuzzy, right? Whereas this business, we love it. I mean, we have a great charity that we're supporting. We're really making a difference. We have a product that makes people feel good. There's just no downside. You're involved with a company called Best Day of My Life. It feels good. It doesn't mean it's always easy, but it's a very just positive thing. And the charitable aspect has just it's been huge for us. And people want to be involved in something bigger to help other people out. They don't want to just necessarily buy, another shirt for themselves or another this. I think a lot of the millennials coming up are getting a little sick and tired of the consumer nature of everything. And they don't want a bigger house, and they're sick of trying to get the next nice new car, and they don't want to be a slave to their things. But if they can invest in things that are helping serve the greater good, it's just they're more fulfilled with that. And maybe they get some crap for that sometimes, like, millennials have to feel good about what they're doing or whatever. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing that people don't get stuck in something they hate doing for 30 years and all the rest of it. So yeah, we found that's a huge part of what we're doing. And yeah, we love it. Front Row Foundation is a great organization. Check it out on Instagram if you have a chance.
Yeah, that's really special. And you're right. The best day of your life can be event-based. It can be anything. And you can give the best day of your life to somebody who needs it.
No doubt. Exactly.
Now, it says here that you're a world traveler and thrill seeker. Tell me a little bit about where you've been, what you've done, and how your passion for traveling connects with your business and sales.
That's a really good question. I mean, what I found, world traveler. I lived in Africa for a month with a tribe, the Maasai tribe in Kenya, climbed Kilimanjaro, which is 20,000 feet. That's like pretty no joke type of climb. I lived in Peru for a month on a surf trip. I was surfing the longest ocean wave on the planet called Chicama. So in terms of length, not size, but it can roll on you can get 3, 4, 5 minute rides, which as a surfer is very long. I've been heliboarding up in the backcountry in Canada, lived in Panama for a month 2 years ago for another surf trip, Bocas del Toro, some of the best waves in the world. Yeah, I lived in Europe for a year. I lived in Florence, Italy for a full year and traveled, all around Europe, which is great. I don't say any of that to brag. For me, that's kind of the background of kind of the jumping all in. Like, you can be afraid. Like, the surf trips were a great example. Even heliboarding in the backcountry is avalanches and things like that. Like, you can be afraid of things and still do them anyways. And that's kind of what it is to be an entrepreneur. If you're going to jump all into a business, to a real estate transaction, to something that's newer or whatnot, you have to dive in with both feet. It doesn't mean you don't look first and kind of do some of your due diligence and all the rest of it, but you have to be willing to eventually take that leap, right? And it doesn't mean you're not afraid. But I think that, like we were talking about earlier, it's hard to be one thing in your business life and something else in your personal life. So when you become an entrepreneur and you're by nature kind of a risk taker, that starts to kind of spill over into all other aspects of your life. So that kind of, like, I don't know, chicken or the egg, which came first, being a traveler, a thrill seeker, being an entrepreneur. I think they're all kind of the same identity for the most part. And so, I don't want to look back and wish that I had done something. You know what I mean? I would rather lose money, have a bad injury. I would rather something happen than look back at the end of life, which we don't have that long. When we look at, I'm 34, I really look at how many good years I have left. It's not that many, maybe 35, like good years of being like, if I'm lucky, right, to be fit. And so when you really look at that and kind of the brevity that is life, I want to look back and really not, have any regrets, is cliche as that is to say, but to know that I did what I wanted to do. And if you don't want to do those things, that's totally fine too. That's why self-awareness is key, right? Know thyself and be thyself. Maybe you're not a thrill seeker. Maybe you like Nintendo. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But be you. Like whatever that is for you, be you. Do what you want to do. And that way you don't have to have regrets. And what I found is when you're going for those things too, it creates energy and excitement that you then carry into your business, right? Because you always want to have something, especially as an entrepreneur, because things get dark and hard, right? People like talk up entrepreneurship like it's some beautiful, easy thing. Entrepreneurship is the path of most resistance. It's the path of maximum fulfillment. It's the most challenging, so it's the most fulfilling, but it's the hardest for sure. And so, what I found is that in the dark days, like I was having this morning, you need to have something to look forward to. Anticipation. There was a stat that said it's something like 60 to 70% of the enjoyment of a vacation or an event. We're going to New Zealand next year. We're going to do the 500-foot bungee jump. We're going to be there for a couple of weeks. We're doing Greece and Italy in July, my wife and I. And the looking forward to that, we're going to the Bahamas, the Atlantis, the Bahamas in February. Looking forward to those trips kind of helps keep my sanity and get me through the dark times. I always have something just a little bit away to look forward to. And if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to have those little things that you're looking for. Maybe you're just looking forward to a pumpkin carving. You don't have to do something crazy, but you got to have those little things that you look forward to, in my opinion, in order to be a positive person and live with the best day of my life mentality.
Ooh, it's so true. All in means emotionally all in. And what I hear you saying is that when you're all in, you're not wishing you were somewhere else or thinking, oh, should I be doing this? Should I not be doing this? You're not going through the motions, but your head is somewhere else. Like your head and your heart and you're like fully all in, because that's how you get the emotions and the energy to really support everything that you're doing. And I think so many times we can be split. If I'm at home, I'm thinking, oh, I should be working my business. Or if I'm working my business, I think, oh, I should, and that's just not helpful to anyone.
Not helpful.
No, it's not.
Be where you are. If you're going to be working, be working. If you're going to be not working, don't be working. If you're going to be exercising, be exercising, but be doing what you're doing. And it's not always easy, right? You have to, try to be conscious of it, try to, meditation is a great practice. Getting into yoga, doing different things to help yourself be present and be in that moment. Because, right now, talking to you, none of those other problems for me right now exist. In this moment, I feel good. In this moment, I feel empowered. And if I were just sitting here worrying the whole thing, not only is that going to destroy this podcast, but it's also going to put me in a really bad place when I do have to dig into these fires. Right? So kind of be where you are. The problems are going to be there. The emails are going to be there. Like all that stuff is going to be there. Try to be present where you are. And if you find yourself getting off track, if I'm mentoring one of our salespeople or doing something, and I find myself thinking about, the backyard remodel or this real estate deal or whatever, I just try to get into my head, be present, be present right now. I'll even try to take notes like I've seen you do. One great way to stay present in a conversation, especially if you're mentoring somebody or if you're being mentored, is to force yourself to take some notes, because the mind likes to wander. It likes to think about, what are we doing for dinner later? What are we doing for Halloween tomorrow? What's going on with my kid's costume? Like your mind goes to some things that don't even necessarily matter. But if you can kind of force yourself to take some notes, it really does help you be present. So there's a lot of little things you can do to kind of increase your level of being present and focused. And that is the number one reason why entrepreneurs don't succeed. It's a lack of focus, especially when you're on that entrepreneur ride. A lot of opportunities will come your way, especially once you become successful. Once you become successful, people want to recruit you into every different business they've ever had, right? And there's a lot of shiny objects. Being able to say no to the other shiny objects is the number one power you can have as an entrepreneur, and to stay persistent and focused down the path that you've picked. Even if 2.5 years in, you're not getting the results in that you expected. To be able to stay on that, to get it to year 5, 6, 7, to see the fruits of your labor, to see the tipping point in your business, that is the difference between whether or not you will make it as an entrepreneur or whether you will be another fake entrepreneur that just gets distracted by the next shiny object every 18 months and bounces around and really never builds anything special.
So good. You are a serial entrepreneur, but you've grown personally so much throughout your journey. I always love to say that entrepreneurship is like a personal development program with a compensation plan.
Yeah, I mean, there's no truer thing that can ever be said than that. It truly is. And again, is it for everybody? I don't know. Like, I think anybody can be an entrepreneur, but you have to, in that pursuit of being an entrepreneur, want to become a better person, because your business is only going to grow in proportion to how you grow. And we all know that. And the serial entrepreneur thing, just to give clarity to that, because a lot of people hear that and they're like, oh man, that person can do everything. I want to be real clear about what serial entrepreneurs are. And even people all the way up to like an Elon Musk type of person or whatever. Serial entrepreneurs are people that have done multiple things, but they weren't doing multiple things typically at the very same time. They Elon sold PayPal. Like for me, sharp retention, and now Best Day and real estate. 3 things, right? I've been an entrepreneur for 16 years, 3 things. So if you're an entrepreneur and you just started being an entrepreneur 8 months ago and you have 4 different businesses you're working on, probably not going to be the best idea. Probably not going to work out. You need to focus on one thing and make that thing work first. And then maybe after 5 years of building, you jump in to the next thing. But the biggest mistake entrepreneurs make is their willingness to just jump from thing to thing without ever actually mastering, right? Let's not forget Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours. Mm-hmm. That's about 5 years before you can become a master of something. And so when people are trying to jump 29 months down the road because something else is exciting and they're not getting the results they wanted here, they're typically quitting that race right before the finish line. If they just stayed with another 9 months, they would have tipped and really won and gotten to the residual income they wanted or the passive flows or the net worth or whatever, but they jumped ship too soon. And so serial entrepreneurs are great. And I'd say the serial entrepreneurs that do have multiple projects going on right now, they didn't start there, right? Like an Elon Musk, he's got SpaceX and Tesla. He didn't start there, right? He did this company, then he did PayPal. Then, so typically a lot of serial entrepreneurs didn't start there. If they do have 3 projects, they made 1 or 2 things work really big. And now maybe they have a lot of cash. And so they're investing and now they can take on different things, but you don't start there. You don't start running 5 businesses or 3 or whatever, in my opinion. I'm open to being wrong, but.
No, I totally agree. I mean, your focus grows. What you focus on grows. And if you're focusing on too much, nothing grows. I actually just created for our business a journal. It's called the Dream Life Daily Journal. And in it, you write your goal every single day. And when I was introducing it to people, they said, so do I have a new goal every day? And I was like, no. You have the same goal until you create momentum. You're going to do something for that goal every single day for a long period of time. So you can create momentum in that space. Yeah. But I think it is an interesting part of the personal development program of entrepreneurship is learning some of these skills. And I know we don't learn them by ourselves. We're not in a vacuum here. And you have mentioned higher networked. Like you always want to network with people 1 or 2 steps ahead of yourself. How do you find those people?
I would say you got to show up. You got to show up and you got to be willing to talk to people and not be afraid to ask for help, because a lot of people that are high up do want to help people. And don't be afraid to add some value, get creative, send a gift, do something different. Don't just ask people for their time. Like you ask me for my time, there's nothing more valuable. I'm not going to go to coffee with you, right? Like maybe I will, but you asking me for coffee is a much bigger deal than you asking me for several $100s of my cash. I don't value several $100s of my after-tax money as much as I do that coffee, because now I got to go in my car. I got to get dressed. I got to go meet with you. I got to drive back. Like that's my time. That's my thought time. That's my looking at deals time. That's so valuable to me being at where I'm at right now. But again, if you ask me for coffee, I probably will say yes if you're in rapport with me, right? So how do you get in rapport with me? You just make the offer. Maybe you send me something. Maybe you learn something about me and you send me a 6-pound gummy bear like we used to do to some of our clients off. It's the world's largest gummy bears, this freaking big. It's $20. Send to their office. But man, you talk about getting their attention, all of a sudden that person's like, cool, like it's fun, it's different, right? Don't be afraid to try to offer and lead with value. People are like, oh, I can never get in touch with that person. You can, if you love on them, if you get creative, like even people that you think are unreachable, we've dripped gifts on influencers that we want to get in touch with over 18 weeks. And we've sent them 18 different gifts with a quote from one of their YouTube videos in every single thing. And you watch as all of a sudden, that's never happened to that influencer. All of a sudden, we're in North Carolina sitting down with this guy in his office for 2 hours. We couldn't buy that. We could not buy that. That's not even available. If we did buy it, it would have been probably $10,000 or $20,000. And so get creative, try to add value. And then after you add value, build some rapport. Don't be afraid to ask people for their time, because ideally, and high achievers know this, you want to have a couple people above you. You want to have some people that are on your level that are going for the same thing. They're in the same struggle of building your business that you're at. And then you want to have a couple people below you that you're helping to mentor, because part of mastery is teaching what you do, right? So in order to master your craft, whatever that craft may be, you got to be learning from higher up people, have some people on your level. But one of the most key parts is that when you're teaching the skills and the basics to somebody else, it reinforces that in you. And so teaching is really one of the last steps of mastery. So above, on the same level, and below, very important. But don't be afraid to approach those people above you. They want some people below them anyways, but they want the right people. So you need to be adding value. You need to be a giver. You need to not be afraid to ask for that person. But there are high achievers out there that don't even know they want to help you yet, but they do, because guess what? They didn't get to where they were at without somebody helping them. And it feels amazing to pay it forward, even if there's no financial upside for that person.
Well, and it sounds like you're saying too, like you said, be a giver. Show them that you're listening to what they're already doing. You're absorbing, you're consuming what they already are putting out into the world, and you kind of align with them on that and appreciate what they're doing. It's not just saying, hey, help me, I need help.
Right. Yeah, you have to be coachable. You have to be willing to implement. They don't want to feel like they're wasting their time, especially if they're a high achiever. You know, you almost have to take an element. If you know you want to be where that person's at, and maybe you don't, so be very mindful of where you want to end up, right? Begin with the end in mind. So if you're having somebody mentor you, understand where they're at. Do I want to be where that person is? And then once you've made up your mind, surrender what your parents are saying, what your spouse is saying, what your friends are, and surrender to what that mentor, maybe they're worth $36 million and they have passive flows and they're 43 and they're retired, and that's where you want to be then, and you know it, and you're willing to do whatever it takes, then you surrender to that person's teaching. You have to be willing to surrender.
Which means that all of the other people that are giving you their opinion doesn't matter at that point.
Just noise.
Because you mentioned there's so many shiny objects. Well, you could Google something and get 8 million ways to do it. So it's really figuring out who aligns the most with you, connecting with them or their way of teaching, and then doing it, because action at the end of the day is king, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Well, I just love the nuggets. I've got a page full. You guys you're going to might want to listen to this several times, because I'm hearing all of these mentors like Tim Ferriss and Malcolm Gladwell, all these people that are coming out of your mouth. You can tell that you're very well developed. So kudos to you. But for those that are just beginning their journey, what is one thing that you do that has helped you that you just can't live without?
So this is one thing that works for me. Maybe it doesn't work for you. Some people are like robots and they're not that emotional. I'm a pretty emotional guy. You know, I have the ups and downs like everybody else. And so for me, staying inspired is definitely the biggest thing. And staying inspired daily. It's so easy now with these iPhones that we have to be plugged into the right YouTube channels, whether it is Tim Ferriss or Robert Kiyosaki or Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, all these people that are inspirational, and whether or not, you know, some of it's rah-rah or whatever, but it keeps you in the right mindset to be able to deal with the failures that will come your way. If you are a commission-only salesperson, which is an entrepreneur, or if you are an entrepreneur, however that's defined, your job is to fail. Like that is 90 to 95% of the job. Just like surfing. I always explain people surfing. The actual riding of the wave, if you go for a 3-hour surf session, that's maybe 10 minutes. You're talking about 90 to 95% of surfing is paddling, is duck diving. That is what it is. People think you're just riding the wave. That's not what's happening. And so I take the same thing to sales. I'm like, if they call the field of sales the field of rejection, people would actually understand what they're getting involved in. I'm like, tell my salespeople, your job is to get rejected. And then you get the 2 yeses, but you had to make 100 whatever calls and marketing touches to get there. And so what I would say If you understand that as an entrepreneur or commission-only salesperson, your job is to get rejected, which is why most people don't do it. It has the biggest upside, but most people don't do it because they can't handle getting rejected. But if you are able to keep yourself inspired and keep your mind right and listen to the right things during your net time, right? Your no extra time, while you're shaving, while you're driving, and you're able to listen to people that inspire you and or that teach you things, you're going to stay in the right mindset to be able to deal with rejection. And then eventually, after a few years of doing it, you don't even think about it. It's just part of the job, right? But at first, when you were first starting out, keeping your mind right and staying inspired daily is a key thing. And most people don't use their net time while they're shaving, while they're showering, while they're working out, having your headphones on, listening to something educational or inspirational to help you get to the next level, because there's going to be a ton of rejection and failure the first couple years. And so keeping your mind right by using your no extra time, by using YouTube or podcasts or things like that to listen to things like this to keep yourself in the right place, that will get you through the dark times. And it doesn't take you any extra time. You're already driving. You're already going for the 5-mile run. Put on something that's motivational or inspirational or educational that can keep you in the right place. So again, I'd say using your net time well to stay in the right place mentally is the key. After 4 or 5 years, you get a little more used to being rejected for a living, which is what we do as entrepreneurs, is we fail and get rejected all day, every day. And that's just part of the deal. If you can accept that up front and understand that up front, that would be the other thing. It makes it a lot easier. Don't expect you're just going to be ripping the cover off the ball 7 months in to any commission only or entrepreneur job, entrepreneur venture. So yeah, that's what I would say. Daily inspiration, feed your mind. I do it while I'm making my green smoothie in the morning, while I'm making coffee, while I'm running, while I'm eating lunch. I'm always listening to things that help my mind be in the right place.
What are you listening to right now?
I'm listening to real estate podcasts right now. I have several offers out. I just pulled out actually 37 units in Peoria, and I pulled out of another 30 unit deal in outside Fort Wayne, Indiana. And just some things that were uncovered in due diligence. I'm a very conservative investor. I'd rather keep my money than buy a nightmare that becomes just a terrible project that takes away from my other businesses. And listening to podcasts about real estate have really helped me learn what I need to know, but also keep me in the mindset of like, hey, it takes time. A lot of times you got to make 17 offers, just like listening to other people's struggles. They made 17 offers and they looked at 300 deals before they bought that right deal, especially in today's real estate, a little bit more of a seller market. And so listening to podcasts about what you're focused on. So if you're doing network marketing, if you're doing like whatever is relevant to what you're working on, because the one thing that you want working is your brain. That's why it's good to not be running 4 businesses at the same time if you're brand new. You want your brain trying to solve problems for the business that you're currently in at lunchtime, while you're sleeping, while you're running. That's why it's important, like you said, write down your goal every day, even if it's the same goal, because eventually when you keep giving so much power and time and attention to that thing, and all your podcasts you're listening to are related to that thing, your brain is going to start to come up with solutions. But if it's scattered all over the place, you're not going to come up with the solutions. You need that focus.
I have never heard of that before. Net time, no extra time. And we all have that throughout our day, driving our kids to school, making dinner. I mean, just having a Bluetooth in your ear consistently with something going, you're absorbing it, you're learning it. And there's so much more time in our day than we give ourselves credit for. You
can get a PhD in intimate relationships, in real estate and other things, literally just by using your net time throughout the year. People have no idea how much time they spend cleaning their barbecue, cleaning their backyard, doing whatever they're doing, where all you got to do is take these things, put them on, and put on something that's actually going to help you move your business forward. It ends up being a few hours a day, and you compound, and then there's a compound effect, right? Exactly. You compound that over time, and all of a sudden people can't imagine how smart you are. Wow, you're so smart for a young person, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm not smart at all. You're just, I fooled you. I have so much information because I use my net time, but I'm actually not smart. And I'm not one of the real smart people, right? And so am I intelligent enough to use my net time and more of a strategist? Absolutely. But the reason why, like, how did you learn how to do all these different things? It's because I'm using all that time that you're using to listen to music or play on Instagram or blah, blah, blah. I'm using that to feed my mind with things that actually move the ball forward. And so if you do that, you just end up becoming, with compounded, You end up becoming light years, and then people can't believe how intelligent you are. And then they start to think they can't do it because you must just be so smart. But really, you cheated, right?
I've been an entrepreneur for almost 12 years. And when you start to read, I mean, I think I was Tony Robbins right at the beginning, and Jack Canfield and Joel Osteen, and, all of the things that we've done over the years. You just start, like you have done all hour, is just start spitting this stuff out because it becomes a part of who you are. Totally. And the concepts don't necessarily change, but just like bathing, we need to do it consistently. So we are consistently re-inspired and redreaming and staying focused. And that's just how we make this the best day of our life every day.
No doubt.
Like getting up and putting in the work and seeing the fruit of all of our labor.
And it's just a choice, and it's not a hard choice. It's the little choices that are just as easy to do. They're just as easy to not do. You could just as easily listen to music. I'm not saying there's anything wrong listening to music. I do that all the time, but it's very easy to do that. Just like it's very easy to listen to an educational podcast like this. And so the things that are easy to do are very easy not to do, but are those little things that are the big things. They end up being the big things. And I think that's another thing that people don't realize, that the extra 6 calls a day do add up to a massive number. When you compound that over 5 business days in a week, and then over 50 weeks in a year, and then over 4 years, it ends up being extra thousands of calls and extra several hundred clients, and then the repeat business and all. Like, people don't understand that the little decision to do that or not do that is the big decision.
Yeah.
Right. And it's all around us every day.
1% shift can take you in a completely new direction.
Totally. It compounds, right? Yeah. So you get a 1% extra effort every single day, compounded over how long, it adds up to be huge. And so it's the same thing with using your net time. You show me the people that you surround yourself with and what you're reading or listening to and what you're spending money on. I'm going to have a pretty darn good idea of who you are and what you're all about.
Awesome. All right. Well, you guys absolutely check out bestdayofmylife.com for t-shirts, hats, pet gear, baby gear, all of the things, because every day is a best day of our lives. So thank you so much, Adam, for sharing your wisdom and experience. And I'm going to listen to this myself several times because you are just full of wisdom. It's like oozing out of you. And I'm grateful for your time today.
Thanks, Denise. It was really good chatting with you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. I want to hear your aha moment from today's amazing episode. If you could leave a review at whatever podcast player you choose to listen from, Apple Podcast, Castbox, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you're listening from, leave a review and share with us your favorite part of today's episode. Thanks for hanging out, and remember to dream big.